Whether it's due to a limited fan base, a crowded market, or just a lack of success and support, some sports teams really need to consider picking up shop and moving it elsewhere.
What made you a Jaguar fan?
I don't know, just the effort the Jags put into to making themselves sort of the London team, and just sort of hooked me. I've just enjoyed them for a few years now.
The relocation of an NBA, NFL, NHL, or MLB franchise only happens every so often these days. But when you look at the state of some professional sports franchises, it only feels like a matter of time until they pack up and leave. Here are 10 sports teams that need to relocate, and where we believe they should move to. Jacksonville Jaguars to London. London, England has been heavily mentioned as a possible NFL expansion franchise. But the league has a perfect number of teams at 32. Why expand when you could keep things simple and just relocate a franchise? The Jacksonville Jaguars are the most realistic of the 32 teams to relocate overseas. Their owner, Shahid Khan, also owns the Fulham FC soccer team. And of course, the Jaguars play one home game annually in London as a part of the NFL's International Series. The Jaguars play in a small market, and because of their long history of losing, they haven't been able to attract much of a following outside of Duval County. This team is consistently near the bottom of the league in attendance. And if the duo of Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence can't turn this group around, general fan interest will only continue to decrease. Should it come to that point, Khan and the NFL might look at expanding to London. We're not saying it's imminent, but 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years down the road, we could definitely see it happening. Tampa Bay Rays to Montreal. The Rays have been one of the top teams in the American League since their unexpected run to the World Series in 2008. Despite their consistency and excellence, however, the Rays just haven't been able to attract much of a following in Florida, and it's pretty disappointing. I mean, former Rays star Evan Longoria once called out the fan base for not buying tickets during the team's run to an AL East Division title. Tropicana Field is one of the worst venues in North American sports. The Rays don't have a long-term stadium plan in place either. There have even been talks about having the Rays split their home games between St. Petersburg and Montreal, Quebec. Owner Stuart Sternberg referred to this as the only option in his mind. Montreal had the Expos MLB franchise from 1969 to 2004 before they relocated to Washington, D.C. and became the Nationals. So there's still a giant baseball interest in Montreal, with a fan base that would welcome a franchise back with open arms. The Rays need a new stadium, and it's clear that they just won't attract the following they deserve. At this point, Major League Baseball should just make things simple and move this team to Montreal. Los Angeles Chargers to San Antonio. The Chargers' move from San Diego to Los Angeles in 2017 stands as one of the most criticized relocations in recent history. For one, it wasn't so nice of Dean Spanos to turn his back on such a caring, passionate, and loyal San Diego fan base. The Chargers just needed a new stadium. It had nothing to do with the lack of public interest in the team. Secondly, as big of a market as LA is, it's not a football city. And even then, the NFL already has the Rams, who have a much greater following than the Chargers. Sure, there's a beautiful new SoFi Stadium to share with the Rams, but if the Chargers can't develop a fan base in LA over the long run, it'll be in the best interest of Spanos to relocate. Again, San Antonio would be a prime relocation option for the Chargers. The city had an AAF team before the league quickly folded in 2019. This is a huge sports city that only has the Spurs to cheer on in the 4 major leagues.
You know, I think it's a great city. I think they got the best organization in the NBA, but they do have some big old women down there.
The Dallas Cowboys and Houston Texans would be a fun geographical rival for the Chargers. And if the Chargers move to San Antonio, they could stay in the AFC West, preventing the league from having to realign its divisions. Florida Panthers to Quebec City. The Tampa Bay Lightning have a strong following because they're among the NHL's elite franchises and their roster is loaded with superstars. As for their interstate rivals, the Florida Panthers, they've consistently ranked near the bottom of the league standings since their Cinderella run to the Stanley Cup final in 1996. With all that losing and the simple fact that Sunrise isn't much of a hockey market, it's no wonder the Panthers have been the subject of occasional relocation rumors. Quebec City has the Nordiques franchise from 1972 to 1995, before they relocated to Denver, becoming the Colorado Avalanche. The team lacked financial stability because of the weak Canadian dollar at the time, and Quebec City is a relatively small market. They do, however, have a viable arena in the Videotron Center. And, hockey is a much bigger deal in Quebec than somewhere like Florida. No sense keeping the Panthers around if the locals in Sunrise aren't going to support the team. And again, the Sunshine State already has the Lightning on top of so many other sports teams. They can get by without the Panthers. Quebec City deserves its hockey team back. New Orleans Pelicans to Seattle. The Charlotte Hornets relocated to NOLA in the 2002-2003 season. 2 years later, Charlotte got a new franchise called the Bobcats. New Orleans changed its team name to the Pelicans for the 2013-2014 season, and the Bobcats switched back to the original Hornets team name in 2014-2015. Okay, that's your history lesson for today. The thing is, New Orleans doesn't love their Pelicans as much as the NFL Saints. The Pelicans have consistently ranked in the bottom third of league attendance. Of course, the lack of winning seasons and the rare playoff appearances don't help matters. In June 2021, John Hollinger of The Athletic wrote, "Sources consistently mention New Orleans as the most likely team to seek relocation in the coming decade." The Pelicans' lease with the city runs up in 2024. That may be the ideal time to find a new home, and Seattle stands out the most. The Emerald City lost its beloved Supersonics franchise in 2008 when they relocated to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder. In 2013, hedge fund manager Chris R. Hansen led a Seattle-based group that tried purchasing the Sacramento Kings from the Maloof family. However, the NBA's Board of Governors voted 22-8 against relocation. Seattle is one of America's greatest sports cities. The Kraken or the NHL's 32nd franchise. The Seahawks and Mariners have incredible fan bases. The city wants their basketball team back, and if the Pelicans seek relocation in 2024 or later on in the decade, the league has to have Seattle atop its list. Miami Marlins to Nashville. Lone Depot Park is relatively new, having only opened in 2012. The same year, the Florida Marlins rebranded to the Miami Marlins. Then owner Jeffrey Loria was widely criticized for this because, quite frankly, it made little sense. This was a team with awful attendance for years, so why throw all this money at a new ballpark when there just isn't a market for Marlins baseball in Florida? Loria isn't the owner anymore, having sold it to Bruce Sherman's group, which includes Derek Jeter, in 2017. The Marlins have done themselves no favors by trading away top stars such as Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, and Gite Realmuto. No wonder the folks in Miami are hardly interested in baseball, especially with the Dolphins and Heat providing far more entertainment and excitement. When it comes to potential MLB relocation, Nashville is instantly brought up. This is a great sports city that already has the Predators and Titans. Memphis has the Grizzlies too, so why not give the state of Tennessee a baseball team once and for all? Nashville is also one of America's most beloved tourist cities, so it wouldn't be hard to attract fans from outside of the Music City. Honestly, the MLB in Nashville makes all the sense in the world, but relocation is the only realistic avenue right now. Could it happen in the next 5 to 10 years? If it does, it'll likely be at the expense of Miami. Arizona Coyotes to Kansas City. It's honestly stunning that the Coyotes have remained in the desert for a quarter of a century. Like, really. They're near the very bottom in attendance every year. With ongoing ownership issues, no long-term plan for an arena, no fans, no revenue, and most importantly, no winning whatsoever, how have they managed to stay in Arizona for so long? It's nice that Las Vegas and Seattle have gotten expansion teams. Up next, it's time to move the Coyotes to a city that will actually appreciate a hockey team. When it comes to US markets, Kansas City tops the list of candidates to get an NHL franchise, now that Sin City and Seattle have their teams. KC had the scouts from 1974 to 76 before they relocated to Colorado and then New Jersey, where they're based today as the Devils. The NHL's current Missouri-based team, the St. Louis Blues, have one of the most passionate fan bases among American NHL teams, even though they had to wait 52 years for a Stanley Cup championship. We have no doubt that Missouri could support another team. Could you imagine a Kansas City-St. Louis rivalry in the NHL? With Seattle joining the Pacific Division in 2021, the Coyotes are set to move to the Central Division, where the Blues also play. That means moving Arizona to Kansas City would allow KC and St. Louis in the same division without the need for any realignment. Even if KC doesn't end up being a huge hockey market, they can't possibly be any worse than Glendale. But again, we have full confidence that this city would embrace a hockey team with open arms. The Sacramento Kings to Vancouver. As we mentioned earlier, the Kings were close to relocating to Seattle in 2013. It didn't happen, and we've already penciled in a Pelicans move to the former home of the Supersonics. So that brings us to Vancouver, British Columbia. They would be the perfect relocation option for the Kings. It's been more of the same in Sacramento since their last rumored relocation. This team just isn't a big draw. California is all about the Lakers and Warriors. Heck, even the Clippers have a bigger following. And quite frankly, California doesn't need 4 NBA teams. Canada could use a second NBA franchise, and Vancouver checks off most of the boxes. This is a great basketball city, and the NBA runs exhibition games here for a reason. Just think of how cool a Vancouver-Toronto NBA rivalry would be. Vancouver had the Grizzlies from 1995 to 2001 before financial issues and a weak Canadian dollar forced them to relocate to Memphis. Vancouver proudly supports its Canucks in the NHL and the Whitecaps of MLS. Surely, this city would appreciate an NBA team more than Sacramento has. Los Angeles Clippers to St. Louis. The Clippers aren't lacking in fans, but make no mistake, LA will always be Lakers town. Such is life when you're one of the most iconic and historically successful franchises in North American sports. Even though the Clippers have been among the NBA's top teams over the past decade, they just don't come anywhere close to drawing as much attention as the Lakers. And even though this team won't relocate under Steve Ballmer, at least not anytime soon, it doesn't mean that this is the best destination for them. The state of Missouri lacks an NBA franchise. The current Atlanta Hawks club was based in St. Louis from the 1955-56 season to the 1967-1968 season. St. Louis would surely support an NBA franchise. They love their Blues and Cardinals. And hey, former Blues owner Bill Laurie tried buying the Vancouver Grizzlies and Denver Nuggets in 1999. This city was so close to getting a basketball team. You have to think that the Clippers would have more success in St. Louis. Again, LA has enough sports teams, and the Clippers just can't compete with the Lakers in terms of marketing and popularity. Cincinnati Bengals to Toronto. The Bengals haven't really been mentioned as a relocation candidate, but Toronto, Ontario certainly has been brought up aplenty as a potential home for an NFL franchise. It doesn't look like the Buffalo Bills are going to be going anywhere anymore. Not with a new stadium on the horizon, a loyal fan base, deep-pocketed owners, and a Super Bowl contender in town. So you can scrap the Bills to Toronto idea for now. The Bengals have been a consistent losing franchise since the start of the 90s decade. That, along with bad ownership and management, have contributed to declining attendance over the years. If the NFL ever looks at Toronto as a realistic destination, they should consider moving the Bengals there. This isn't the biggest market for a football team after all. And Toronto would obviously play in the AFC North, so divisional realignment wouldn't be necessary. Toronto is the only Canadian city with an NBA and MLB team. They also have MLS and CFL squads. This is a big-time sports city with a giant fan base that's eager to cheer on an NFL team that they can call their own. Just look at how raucous these Raptors crowds are, especially during the NBA playoffs. Do you really think that they'd treat an NFL team any differently? But hey, what other sports teams need to relocate, and where should they go? Join us in the comments section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around at CPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.